Well, my intent was to set up the rotary table today on the mill and shoot video of that round the edges on the main tool block round all these edges around the four corners, and then I was also going to round all four on the tool holder side of it. So I'm probably going to get it set up, but I spent most of the day screwing around building tooling and things to do that. So I've been working with the rotary table, trying to set up some accessories for that and make that a little more useful for doing stuff like this. So let's take it down to the bench and I'll show you what I got going on. All right, so here's the rotary table. We've seen it before. And what I needed to do was be able to set up fixturing on this so that I could hold everything square and repeatable. So I can initially index up off of these two holes to round them, but then I need to hold those positions on the table itself so that I can run this in on the other four corners that don't have holes to index them off of. So what I set up was, first off, I needed a way to zero out this. This has got a Morse taper number 2 in it. So what I ended up and did is I took this is actually an old drill, Morse taper drill, and it was pretty well shot anyway. So what I did is I bobbed off the tang, I shortened up the front, and in the front end, I bored it for these little inserts. And this is our 1/4 inch insert basically, and this will be for the larger hole, or 3/8, and these are specific to these size holes, so I'll just build these as I need them. Now I did this with 3/8 so that a 3/8 round stock will fit in here and make a good fit. If I want to do something bigger, I'll just, if I want a 1/2 inch point, why I'll turn it out a 1/2 inch stock and then turn it down to 3/8 to fit in there. But anyway, I drilled that, and then I need a way to extract it too. So I tapped at 1/4 28 on down through the bottom, and this is my little puller that goes on like that. And because I felt I needed a way to get it back out once I got it into this taper, especially if I've got it mounted down on the table like this, I need to change it, and I don't have access to the bottom of it to drive it out or whatever. Now on this end, I've tapped at 3/8 16. The reason being that is what is standard on the drawbars and tooling for things like the Atlas mill and the Atlas lathe if you're holding a tool holder in there. Now whether that'll be useful in the future or not, I don't know, but since I was building it, had it set up in the lathe and everything, figured I might as well drill and tap it, so I do have that extra versatility. So the way it works is it drops right into your Morse taper number 2, and it sits just a little bit proud, which neither here nor there. It probably would be better if it was flush, but this is what it is, and the way I was holding it in the lathe, I really didn't have a way to turn it down. I can do it, but didn't feel the need. To extract it, my 1/4 inch bolt with my little slide hammer puller, and it will go in there just like that. And if it's not in very tight, it'll pull right out. If it is in there fairly tight and doesn't want to come out, we have a little collar that we can slide right underneath it like that. Run it down. Well, if I can get the right size Allen wrench here. Run it down, and it pulls it out just that easy. So that's my tooling for my little Morse taper adapter. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this so it's apart and we don't have to worry about it. While we're rounding, we'll want to round the inside edge of this too. But what my thought is to round this edge. We can set this up on the table. We can zero on one of our pins, or we can zero on the bore, however we want to do it. This will set in there, and it will go all the way down. Although it's a snug enough fit, we can have it any height, and I'll build more of these as I need to. But anyway, we would put that on there, and then we can rotate our table to cut our corner radiuses. Now once I get indexed up and get this done, I want I want a 90-degree edge along here, or curb, something like that, to hold them in position so that I can be repeatable. So once I've got it set zeroed and have my DRO set up and where I want to zero it, I can pull that out, I can rotate this around, and I can shove one of these corners in, and that will give us our positioning for the rest of them. So what I did for these, I want a sacrificial piece underneath, and I was just going to take a narrow, flat piece of something or other and notch it out so it'll fit around here and get in close enough. I can set this on top of it, clamp it down, and then rotate it. But that doesn't give me any index points. What I ended up and came up with, and this was a piece of scrap, I basically made me a little fixture table. And I've done it a couple of different ways. I've got a center hole that will just fit over that outer diameter so that I can zero up off of the center, do whatever I want, bolt out whatever I want around the perimeter of it. That would be clamped on there. But that doesn't really give me a good index point either. What I've done is I'm going to set it up just like that. Get this up here a little bit higher so that it'll engage. I can hook this on here just like that. These two edges are square. So once I've got it positioned where I want it, and I'll index off of an edge here, however to get 90 degrees here or here, one way or the other, go ahead and get that positioning there, clamp it so the edges are flush, on both sides. I'll go ahead and clamp this down to one of the T-slots in the table, and then I'll clamp this down on top of it, and I can just swap this around. Once this side's done, well, I can pull my pin, put another 90 degree over the same place that's lined up with these two edges, clamp it down, and I can rotate them that way. So that's the plan, good, bad, or otherwise. This is what I came up with for clamping this down in position. It will set up here something like this. Maybe. Put our smaller pin in here, and I'll have already zeroed out the table. That will be in position, assuming we've got that right. We can slide that underneath, clamp this down. A little bit of a transition period while I get tools situated at this bench. Once that is in position on the table, I can rotate it and run through our arc, and then to clamp the rest of this down, we've got any of a number of options here. We can clamp our part down with, probably add a second one down here, something like that to lock it in position, and then we can go ahead and turn our outer diameter. Then since this is locked in place to do the other two, all we've got to do is loosen this up, take this off, take this out, line up our two edges here and here. We're already centered. Clamp it back down in position with the proper packing and everything, and we can rotate it through. So it's just that simple. Doesn't look that simple, but I think it's going to be that simple. Plus I've got tooling that I can use for other things. You know, this little plate hopefully will be fairly versatile if I need it on the dividing head, if I need to clamp it in a vise, something like that. Now the tooling that came with the rotary table, of course, is metric, and that's what their tie downs are. You know, their tie down bolts are going to be metric. I'm going to leave them for the table itself since I've already got them and they're supplied. I went with 3/8 18 tooling on this plate. The reason being I already have this tooling set up. This is off of the shaper in the milling machine. So these are hold down clamps and grade 8 bolts and everything that I set up for on the shaper in the mill. So just added more versatility with the tooling I've already got without getting into another complete tooling system. So hopefully this will work out the way it's supposed to. You know, I think it'll be fine. And as always, it's a learning process as we go along, so we'll build tooling as we need it, and if we need to change things around, why, we'll certainly do that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this set up on the mill. I don't know if we'll get anything else accomplished today other than starting to set this up on the mill, but that's what we've got. Now see, also the T-nuts that fit on the Atlas shaper and the Atlas milling machine tables fit in here too. They're a little sloppy in here. I think we probably got metric stuff to start with, but that's going to be perfectly adequate for what I want to do here. All I've done is bolted the table down. It's 90 degrees off of the front. You know, we indicated in this side, which would be the base when it's standing up. We've got everything indicated, and I've already cut the first radius here on this one. So, and it'll be hand fitting when we're, you know, once we're down to it, but everything looks to be zeroed out pretty well. I'm using a spacer behind to block it up again. And then this is going to sit right on here like this. And we want to loosen those up so we can get it straight down here onto our pin. Once we're set on our pin, we're locked in there now. We just make sure we're parallel to the surfaces. We're quite a bit taller on this side. We have to go to a longer bolt, maybe not. And then we'll square up the offside so it's square to the world, and then we can tighten our bolts back down here. And I'm just taking real light cuts and just blending in my radius here. That goes there. And then we're adding this one more clamp over here just to make sure our little, our whole plate assembly doesn't move. About like that. This is an awful light setup, so I'm taking really light cuts to turn the radius just to make sure we don't slip or go any place we're not supposed to. So let's and our digital readout is just already set, so this should be fairly easy. Okay, we're going to call that good. See what that does for us here. There's our second one. And they're all cut exactly the same way. So I'll go ahead and set up. Now see, we've already got our 0, so all I've got to do is square up the ends. And we're going to be close enough for what we want. Get that pin out of there because we're not using a pin now. And we'll be doing one of these. And that may be where we ran into problems before, as I may not have had that squared up to the world. That's all there is to it. So I say that's all there is to it. I spent quite a bit of time diddling around, but that's the gist of how I'm going to radius those corners. I'm going to go ahead and do the last one on this, and I'll go ahead and do the tool post side of it off camera, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. All right, little end of the day shot. I just thought I'd show you what I'd accomplished today, which hasn't been a whole lot. I did go ahead and finish rounding all the corners on these, and I didn't video that. You know, once you've seen the initial setup and everything, there's nothing new there. Now I have gone back and polished the corners, and this was done on my buffing wheel. And you see a lot of guys will hand fit these with files and stones and emery cloth, sandpaper, things like that, and that's fine. I do that to a certain degree, but I've got the buffer here. I'm pretty experienced with a buffer. I've been polishing guns out for 30 some years, so I'm even on my crappy little buffer. So these are not done by any means. I still got to finish out the edges, the rest of the edges and stuff, but this shows the kind of finish you can get with a buffer without rounding them over and making them ugly. You know, you still get a nice crisp corner. And like I say, I've got to finish out all these yet, but that's the way the corners look. So just thought I'd show you, since I've got this much of it done. Same way with this. Now this had to build me another little insert for my rotary table to fit in here, and went ahead and rounded that on the rotary table, and then I polished the radiuses, and it came out really nice. I'm really happy with that. So, and it goes back together just like it has 8 dozen times so far. So I think tomorrow when we start machining on this, I will probably go ahead and do the long adjustment bars, which are going to be these bars here. We'll drill them and get them radius, since I still got the rotary table set up. And then I will probably go ahead and start on the arms. I don't know that for certain, but that's probably what I'm going to do, just because I'd like to get everything pretty well radiused that's going to be on the rotary table now. So now I'm making this all nice and shiny and polishing these edges and everything. This may very well ultimately get sandblasted down or bead blasted down before I blue it. It'll hold oil just a little bit better than a high polished finish under fairly heavy use, and a lot of these dimensions are just right on the verge of being undersized anyway. So start polishing too much on the faces and on the edges and stuff, and we're going down under dimensions, which doesn't really matter, other than I think it'll look a little bit nicer, you know, without crowding these radiuses that are supposed to be here in our holes. So anyway, that's the way it looks so far. I think it's coming along quite nicely. So anyway, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.